Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Majlis in Markets. As always, I am your host, Hassan Jivraj. I'm really happy to be doing my third episode on YouTube. I'm still getting the hang of it, so please do offer your feedback in the comments, or if you can email me at hassan@majlisinmarkets.com. And please do remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. This podcast will be, or vodcast I should rather say, will be available on YouTube later on and also on all audio platforms. But now I'd like to introduce my guest, our first Sharia scholar on Majlis and Markets, Dr. Mohamad Akram Laldin. Dr. Akram, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dr. Akram, it's really a pleasure to have you on the podcast. You and I have been talking for the last couple of years about the podcast, and I first met you in 2013, way back in London at the international. I don't know if it's still around, but it's like the Islamic Banking and Institute of Finance, I think, back in London. I can't remember the
Yeah.
acronym. It was at a conference, at a workshop actually, and you were giving a nice lecture about Sukuk and Sharia standards back in 2013.
Okay.
And yeah, it was just a really fantastic experience meeting you. I met you again at Cliff at the Kuala Lumpur Islamic Finance
Wonderful.
Forum in 2013,
Yeah.
and we had a nice coffee and chatted about that.
Alhamdulillah.
That was a different time in 2013 with Malaysia and Islamic finance and Sukuk. And I really want to get a take on what your thoughts on the industry today and like what a Sharia scholar does, because I think a lot of our listeners and viewers would be really fascinated to learn about that. But before we get into all of that, Doctor, could you give us your early life and your background story?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity, Brother Hassan, to thank you for inviting me to this Majlis and Markets. I mean, it is really wonderful sessions in which I think it is important for the people out there to also know about the making of the Sharia scholars, as well as, you see, what does Sharia scholars do and how do they deal with the issues in front of them? I think these are among the things that we need to expose it to people outside there, because sometimes we can see that, I mean, people only know, you see, the end result of the Sharia scholars. Now, coming back to my background, I was born here in Malaysia, you see, and brought up in Malaysia. And I start my religious study during my secondary school, where I admitted into a secondary school here also in Malaysia, in the state which I was born in, Malacca. So once I'm done with my secondary education, then I got the opportunity, Alhamdulillah, to further my undergraduate studies in the University of Jordan. I mean, first I went to Jordan. I did my language course because obviously, you know, as a Malaysian, yes, even though I do learn Arabic here in Malaysia before I went, but it is not that enough for me to straight away go into the undergraduate program. So I learned, an Arabic language for about one semester, and then I went into my undergraduate program. That was way in, I think I can still remember my student card at that time. It started with 85. So that is the year when I start my undergraduate study in the University of Jordan in the Kulliyat Sharia, where I studied fiqh, and I mean the undergraduate program is fiqh wa tashri'. So of course, I mean, I learned fiqh subject, including muamala as well as usul fiqh and whatnot. And then I graduated in 1989 from Jordan, back to Kuala Lumpur, back to Malaysia, and then I start teaching in the International Islamic University. Alhamdulillah, I got the opportunity to teach at the International Islamic University. So I started teaching at that time. We have a matriculation program. So I was teaching matriculation students for about 2 years. And then I have the opportunity to further my studies. I mean, the university sent me to further my studies. So then it was, you know, the practice of the university. When you graduated from the Middle East, they would encourage you for your postgraduate studies to go to the West because the medium of instruction in the university is Arabic and also English. So you are good in Arabic, you can teach in Arabic. They want you also to be able to teach in English. So in my case, I got an opportunity to further my studies in Edinburgh, the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. So I was admitted to they call it SPG program, Supervised Postgraduate Studies, where you submit your proposal and then there will be an internal evaluation by the university, and then the university will decide whether you should stay as a master's student or you can choose to be promoted to as a PhD candidate. So in my case, Alhamdulillah, I got promoted to PhD candidate, and my sponsor, I mean the government of Malaysia as well as the university, agree for me to continue my PhD program. So Alhamdulillah, I graduated in 1994 from the University of Edinburgh back to Malaysia and start teaching back in the International Islamic University. And my journey in Islamic finance actually started in 1995. When I came back, I graduated, came back. At that time, of course, in Malaysia, our first Islamic bank was established in 1983. Until about 1994, there was only one Islamic bank in Malaysia. And then 1994 onwards, I mean, there are other banks that was given the license by the central bank at that time. So then, the need for talent has increased. So there, I have the opportunity in which I was introduced to Islamic finance. So I start attending some trainings because my background was in Sharia, in fiqh, pure fiqh. You see, I did learn, I mean, the theoretical aspect of muamalah. But then, Alhamdulillah, I have the opportunity to attend workshops, attend short courses related to banking, related to finance. And I used to provide training as well on the Sharia aspect when it comes to some trainings related to Islamic banking. So there I learned a lot of things, you see. And then I have the opportunity to serve. I think the first bank that I served was Eon Bank. I mean, they do have an Islamic window at that time here in Malaysia. So I served with Eon Bank for some time, and then I have the opportunity to serve HSBC Malaysia at that time. Again, they have window, and during my tenure in HSBC Malaysia, I was also instrumental in assisting the team to submit the application for the window to be converted to subsidiary. So then, alhamdulillah, we got the subsidiary license. So we have the HSBC Amanah Malaysia Barakat. I mean, that is another entity. It is a subsidiary of the HSBC group. So I have the opportunity to serve in Malaysia as well as in Brunei at that time, in Singapore with HSBC, and also was on the HSBC Global Sharia Board as well. So there, start my journey, and then I was called by the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara, to head the research academy. I think the good thing about Malaysia is that the government was very concerned in developing infrastructure. You see, so where we have the university that was established by Bank Negara, INSEF University, you see, and after the establishment of INSEF University, Bank Negara wanted a research entity focusing on Islamic finance. So I was called by the Deputy Governor at that time to establish International Sharia Research Academy, and Alhamdulillah, I have the opportunity to serve as the founding executive director of ISRA. So we do research, we do a lot of activities, research activity, we publish books, we do event, as well as we have interaction with global scholars and whatnot. So that has really enhanced my connection in Islamic finance, as well as, you see, I have the opportunity to serve on several Sharia board, either here in Malaysia as well as across the globe. So that basically my journey in Islamic finance.
MashaAllah, that sounds really great, Dr. Akram. I just, before we get into like the intricacies of like Sharia and what a Sharia scholar does, you mentioned you moved to Jordan. So I'm assuming you went to Amman, and when
Yeah.
you were studying there, what was that like going in, like, I guess in the 80s, you went to Amman?
Yeah, in the
What was it
80s,
like?
yeah, exactly. I mean, in the 80s, I mean, I think at that time, even in Jordan, the Islamic bank was not that flourished. And I can remember opening my first bank account. My first bank account, I opened it in Jordan, and I opened it in the Islamic Bank of Jordan at that time. And I can still remember the branch, you see, that I opened it is in. But then at that time, I mean, it was still, I mean, Islamic Bank of Jordan has been established, but that is the only Islamic bank that I know that was established in Jordan, and it was still at a very nascent stage. And that was, I assume it was in 1985, 1985, 1986, where, but you don't really hear about Islamic finance at that particular time. You see, but you know that there are, you see, Islamic finance related activities, I mean, the bank. And I was told later on that the bank have interesting products, including they have mudarabah, true mudarabah, you see, where they provide capital to small and medium enterprises in order for them to to start their business and whatnot. I mean, that was the some of the information that I got. But then, I mean, it was very, very nascent at that particular time. And I think globally also Islamic finance was at its early stage at that time. And interesting, after that, I mean, we can see how Islamic finance have grown.
Dr. Akram, like, why did you choose Jordan, or was it the only choice that you had at the time?
Well, you see, during that time, when I was trying to look into the different places where I wanted to do my undergraduate, I realized that at that time the focus was in Al Azhar in Egypt. And during the early days, I think mostly Malaysian goes to Egypt, and in Egypt, I mean, there are so many Malaysians. So I was thinking that if I go to the same place, then I will be, commingling with the Malaysian, and maybe the opportunity for me to get exposure to the local culture and whatnot might be less compared to if I go to a place where there are not many Malaysians. So when I arrived in Amman, that was in 1984, there are only 3 Malaysians there. In Amman at that time. So I arrived, so there are 4 Malaysian, and I was among the earlier Malaysians who was admitted to the University of Jordan. And I'm the second Malaysian who graduated because before me there was another one who graduated from the University of Jordan. So I was the second one, and I realized that. You see, the good thing about Jordan is that one, in terms of language, the local, the slang, I mean, is very close to the standard language of Arabic. You see, unlike Egypt, I mean, sometimes even until now, I do struggle to try to understand what they say when they speak their language. But in Jordan, I mean, it is very close to the standard language, so it's not difficult for you to understand when they speak. So, and also, I think I have really benefited from the classes that was conducted in the masjid, where yes, I mean, I do go to the university and learn because University of Jordan is, I think, one of the among the earlier institution where they have this semester system. You see, so you study for about 16 weeks in one semester, so you take about 4, 5, 6 courses per semester. So it was, very extensive, I would say. But then I have the opportunity to learn outside the classroom. One of my great teacher, Allah yarhamu, Sheikh Salah Al Khalidi, he passed away, I think, about 1.5 years ago. You see, I benefited a lot from him. After Fajr, he will sit down with predominantly student at that time. So we will, learn Kashaf, Zamakhshari, we will learn Arabic, we will learn, a book of fiqh. He also teach after Maghrib. So we really commingle with the scholars at that particular time. And we have other scholars as well. And in the masjid that I stayed in Suwaileh, I mean, it was very Masjid Abdul Rahman Auf. It is very with a lot of halaqatul ilm. Okay, so Alhamdulillah, we benefited a lot from this great scholar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them. So I think that is among the reason why I choose to go to Jordan at that particular time. And
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, I have the opportunity even to learn the local culture. And sometimes during the semester break, I will follow my friend, go back to their village, you see, commingle with them and learn about the local culture. Alhamdulillah, it was a great opportunity.
Allah, I was going to say you probably had really nice mansaf as well in Jordan, and probably ate nice food
Mantap
when you
and
were there.
maklum.
Yeah, I'm sure you ate there nicely. But Dr. Akram, I think you said you went to Scotland after, or did you spend a bit more time in Malaysia after your studies in Jordan?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was in Malaysia I graduated in 1984. No, I graduated 1989, and then 1991 went to Scotland for my PhD. So there was about 2 years break between my undergraduate because I start teaching about 2 years in Malaysia, and then in 1991 I went for my postgraduate in Edinburgh, in Scotland.
And what made you want to go to Scotland? Why there?
Well, Scotland at that time was one of the center in which it was established in Islamic studies. Because I can see that even quite a number of Malaysian scholars, they graduated from the University of Edinburgh, and they have the Department of Islamic and Middle Eastern Studies, where they have good professors who have good background in Islamic Islamic studies. So I think that is one of the reasons why I choose Scotland at Scotland time. Alhamdulillah, I mean, we have a wonderful time that I spend in Scotland. Again, of course, I mean, in Scotland at postgraduate level, you don't have, in Scotland, there is no coursework that you have to go through. So it's just that you need to do your own research and write your own thesis, you see, which is supervised by the supervisor. And I have a wonderful supervisor, Professor Ian Howard. He has passed away. And I mean, I really learned a lot of, methodology from him. And sometimes I agree with him, I disagree with him. And the good thing about my supervisor is that he does not impose his view on me. You see, so sometimes I have different view and I wanted to write in my thesis. He will always welcome that, and he said that is as long as you can defend your view, you can write it. And apart from, of course, I've been studying. At the same time, I was also active in the community. So I mean, we have the Muslim community. We have the Central Mosque of Edinburgh at that time. It was still the old in the old building. So we have every Friday, I remember we have a small halakah where we pick certain topic related to Islam. So since I have background in Islamic studies, so we'll go through some book of tafsir, some book of fiqh, and if they have any question, they will be asking. So with that, I enhance my knowledge as well as my language skill, and of course, I mean, you try to assist the local community, you see, in order for them to understand Islam. So Alhamdulillah, I think it was a very good time that I have the opportunity to spend in Scotland as well.
Amazing, amazing. Dr. Akram, you've mentioned all the institutions and organizations you work for over the years, but I kind of want to get a take from you. Like, what does a Sharia scholar do at an Islamic financial institution do? What does your day-to-day look like?
Okay, mostly if you look into the Sharia scholars, if I take, for example, either in Malaysia or even outside Malaysia, mostly the scholars, they are attached to certain institution. Mainly, I can say that they are attached to universities, right? So most of them, they are in the universities, they will be teaching and whatnot. So they will be spending their time in the university, and at the same time they sit on the Sharia board. Of course, I mean, being a scholar in the Sharia board of banks particularly, you see, not one-off job, because you need to interact with the people, with the Sharia department of the bank from time to time, depending on the size of the bank, on the business model of the bank. Some bank, I mean, the product that they offer is very extensive. Okay, so usually we will communicate through emails. Okay, so like myself, you see, I have to make sure that every day I have to check my email and try to respond to whatever queries that they have. And sometimes they would want to have time with you to call you, because there are certain issues. It might be difficult for you to just type on the keyboard to explain the issue. So they will be called from time to time. And also sometimes if there are certain issues that need urgent deliberation, then they will call us for a meeting. So that's why sometimes we do, because of the time constraint of some of the members, so we do even meet even at night, you see, for 1 hour, 2 hours to discuss certain issue. So I would say that, of course, I mean, people like me, I'm involved in quite a number of institutions. So even though now I am semi-retired meaning that I don't have any full-time job at the moment, because I do not intend to, after my assignment at ISRA, I don't intend to have a full-time job. But then my engagement with the different institution, either in Malaysia or in outside Malaysia, I mean, that really keep me busy. You see, so every day I have to really look into my emails and whatnot, and also have constant contact with the different organization. And at the same time, of course, we need to upgrade ourselves from time to time. Okay, so we need to attend conferences. Myself, for example, last 2 weeks, I was in Qatar attending the International Fiqh Academy. Some areas or issues related to Islamic finance was discussed over there. So I need to keep myself update from time to time. IUFI conference, Dalah Barakah, as well as in Malaysia, we have our CLIF, we have our Muzakara, we have the Sharia Scholars Forum, and so we need to keep ourselves update with the latest development that is taking place either in the market or in the Sharia fraternity. Because for me, as a Sharia scholars, my exposure should not be confined to areas related to my specialization, because I want to find solution for a practical solution that can be implemented on the ground. So if I don't understand the market, I don't understand how banks work, I don't understand what are the peculiarity, I don't understand the legal framework in the country, the taxation framework in the country, then I might be giving a solution which is not practical to be implemented on the ground. So we need to keep ourselves update from time to time. So that is the reason why you see we need to read, of course. I mean, and we need to also attend conferences and whatnot. And I think the other thing that is also important in the daily life of a Sharia scholar is that before we attend any meeting, documents will be sent to us. We need to go through the documents before the meeting. For example, this morning I have a meeting with the pension fund here. So last night I have to go through the files and check and try to read and try to understand what are the issues. So during the meeting, if there is any concern, anything that I want to raise, at least I can straight away raise it to them. So we need to prepare ourselves beforehand before we attend any meeting, so as to be able to contribute effectively in the meeting. So that generally I would say that how the Sharia scholars work.
And do you think it differs from like jurisdiction to jurisdiction? So, like what you do in Malaysia on a day-to-day basis is different to say the GCC countries, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, generally speaking, not much different, except that in certain jurisdiction, for example, if you are advising a financial institution in the UAE, as we know that UAE, the IOFI standard is mandatory in UAE, right? So you have to ensure that whenever you advise any institution in UAE, that you have to ensure that it does not go against the what is there in the IOFI standards. In the case of Malaysia, we have the Sharia standard that is issued by Bank Negara Malaysia. You see, again, in the context of Malaysia, you have to ensure that it is in line with whatever is issued by the authority over here. But sometimes, of course, there might be certain exception need to be given to the institution. So it all depends. That one, it is similar when it comes to Malaysia, outside Malaysia. So the Sharia board or Sharia committee will discuss, you see, if there is certain exception need to be given, then you need to depart from the normal course of work. Then you might need to go through certain process. In certain cases, you need to communicate with the higher Sharia authority. Like in UAE, you have the HSA, higher Sharia authority, need to get their blessing, you see, before any ruling is given. So we need to ensure that all the governance process is also being followed through. And of course, this usually we will communicate it with the management of the institution. You see, depending on the different institution, they might have different processes in order for us to make sure that everything is in order.
Dr. Akram, one thing I want to ask you is like, how do you come to a conclusion on something? So, say for example, someone comes with you with an issue, say at a bank, let's say for argument's sake. Do you speak to other scholars, or do you go to your own research? How do you come up with like a judgment on something
Okay.
to the person or to the organization?
Okay, in most cases, we can see that before a particular issue is being discussed, there will be a research team. That's why in most of the financial institution, they have their own staff that will be preparing the papers for deliberation by the Sharia committee. So those who are preparing the papers, they will do some research, you see, in order for them to present the case to the Sharia scholars. Now, when they present the case to the Sharia scholars, the first thing, the most important thing from my perspective is that for the Sharia scholars to understand the issues at hand. Because sometimes there might be certain complexity, especially terms that is being used, financial terms and whatnot, in which we are not familiar. So the Sharia scholars have to make sure that they understand the issue first. That's why in a magazine, it is said that al hukmu ala shay far'un an tasawwurihi, meaning that before you provide any ruling, on any particular issue, you have to understand the issue itself. If you don't understand the issue, then you might give, you see, a misleading judgment or misleading fatwa and whatnot. So that's why it is very important for us to understand the issue first. So that might take some time. So sometime we will get the expert from the product development team for them to explain the product to us. So we need to understand from A to Z. I mean, the entire product in order for us to provide our view. Then, of course, once we have understood the issue, then we will look into the fiqhi aspect of it. So that's why the presentation, usually the first part of the presentation is to understand the product. And then the second part of the presentation will be on the Sharia aspect of the product. So depending on the extensivity of the research that was conducted, the Sharia aspect of the product is also presented to the scholars in order for the scholars to deliberate. In some institution where they don't have expert in Sharia, so the scholars have to do that part. You see, the scholars have to understand the issue and then provide the judgment based on the issue that they understand, and they will have to come up with the solution based on their understanding of the fundamentals of muamalah. You see, so that basically, I mean, how it works. And then, of course, if they are satisfied, then usually they will provide their view. The scholars will provide their view and sign off the fatwa and whatnot. If further research is needed, then in some cases, the decision will be deferred for further research, either by the scholars or by the research team at the institution. So it all depends, because sometimes not all issues are brought to us in its comprehensive manner. And sometimes we need to check with other scholars,
And
especially if we were told that so and so board has already approved this product, we might want to check and get the view of the scholars from other board, whether what was the justification. For example, sometimes we just get a fatwa from the other institution, and in that fatwa there is no full justification. So we might want to know what is the basis, what is the justification. So we will try to get the information from other scholars, and usually, I mean, we do have the contact of other scholars in order to understand. So I mean, the dynamic might differ from one institution to another institution, but at the end of the day, I think the process is very thorough. You see, in which in most cases, if we are not satisfied with the research and also with the extensivity of the research, then it will be deferred. I mean, the decision will be deferred.
that actually leads nicely to my next point, Dr. Akram, is that this idea of ethics as a Sharia scholar. Do you think like there are conflicts of interest with regards to products, governance? Like, what are your thoughts on these kind of issues?
Okay. I mean, there are several areas when it comes to conflict of interest and whatnot. I mean, the first one is that in term of ethics, as you know that in fiqh, there might be different views, different interpretation of the scholars. Okay. So ethically, if I have given my view on a particular issue in one Sharia board, I should stick to my view, even if I'm giving my fatwa or my opinion in other Sharia board. You see, because if I am convinced that this is the best view, right? Unless if there are clear evidence showing that the context or what in another Sharia board is different, I mean, that is fine. Okay, but if the same product, here you say yes, here you say no, then that will raise a serious ethical issue in you dealing or providing the fatwa. So that's why it is very important for me as a scholar. I have to be consistent. If here I say tawarruk is not allowed, okay, there also I must say tawarruk is not allowed. Unless if I say, okay, I mean here because the circumstances is different, I am allowing it on exception basis. And these are the justification. Fair enough, right? But under normal circumstances, if I say yes here, here also I have to say yes. If I say no here, here also I have to say no. Even though, yes, I mean, you see, the scholars have to depend on their knowledge, have to depend and provide solution based on circumstances. But if the circumstances is the same, then the fatwa shouldn't be different from one institution to another institution. Okay, that is one. The other thing is that, Alhamdulillah, I mean, now you can see that quite a number of scholars, they have their own Sharia advisory firm. Okay, I mean, there is nothing wrong to have Sharia advisory firm, and Alhamdulillah, I mean, we know that, I mean, these scholars, they are doing their job wonderfully. So for those who have a Sharia advisory firm, then they need to take kind of extra caution, so as if there is any element, see, that is conflicting with their business interests, then they should declare it or they should abstain from providing advice, so as to ensure that the integrity of their institution as well as the integrity of the scholars. You see, because sometimes we might think that there is no issue with it, but the perception of people outside there, they will be saying that, oh, this sheikh is giving fatwa because he wanted to make money and whatnot. Even though, of course, I mean, that is not the case, but it's very important for those scholars who have a Sharia advisory institution to ensure that, see, it's not that you are clean in the sense, but you also must be seen to be clean so that it will preserve the integrity of the entire industry, inshallah.
I mean, Dr. Akram, from your experience throughout your career, have you ever experienced where there's like pushback from somebody within the institution or someone who's challenging you or who's getting like a bit annoyed with you in the sense like you're not approving something that he wants done? Have you ever come across this situation?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that is, I mean, yeah, sometimes we do have this kind of situation. But for me personally, I would like people to challenge my view. You see, that's why I always tell the people in the industry, yes, as a scholar, I have my own knowledge, I have my own exposure. You see, I have my own understanding of a particular issue, but this does not mean that you cannot challenge my view, because whatever view that I give is based on my knowledge, my exposure. I might not know the other dimension of the issue. So it is your duty, especially the practitioners, for you to challenge and ask me, especially as we know that the beauty of muamalah is that the origin of it is that it is permissible. So if I want to say that you cannot do this, you cannot do that, then I have to come up with the basis. See? So that's why I'm fine for people to challenge my view. But then, of course, I mean, it has to be done with adab, with akhlaq. Okay, there is no, for me, there is no issue for you to ask the Sharia scholars. And I think it is the right of everyone, you see, to get the answer. If I'm giving my view on certain issue, so it is the right of the public to ask what is the basis of my view. That's why I do encourage the Sharia committees of financial institutions to publish their fatwas, to publish their view. And alhamdulillah, we can see that quite a number of institutions are doing that now. At the regulatory level, for example, if you look into Bank Negara Securities Commission in Malaysia, they have published, you see, their Sharia view, and you can see it. It is in the open, it is in the website of the Bank Negara as well as the Securities Commission. They have published together with the Sharia basis for the view. If you look into IOFI standard, for example, IOFI standard come up with the standard, and then there is the basis for the standard in the same. So this is something which is good, so that people don't see that, you see, the Sharia scholar is just dictating without giving us what is the basis. So it is very important for us. So it is fine for you to get explanations, for you to get views of the Sharia scholars, for you to challenge, because sometimes there might be certain dimension that we are not aware of it. When people from the market tell us, okay, this is the situation. Okay, can we do this way? Can we do that way? So we have to analyze it from the Sharia perspective. And if we say that, okay, I mean, this is my limit. See, I cannot go beyond this. If I go beyond this, I will be going into the territory of riba. I will be going into the territory of gharar or what, you see. So then, I mean, we have to explain that to the people in the market. So I would very much encourage the interaction between the scholars as well as the people in the market.
And what are your thoughts on things like a centralized Sharia board? Are you in favor of more centralized, or do you think it should be more decentralized, where it's up to each institution?
Personally, I would say that from the governance point of view, of course, if you are talking about at the global level, it will be very impractical to have a centralized system at the global level, Therefore, we do have IOFI standard, for example, in which, this standard is being used in different jurisdiction where it can bring closer the view of the scholars. But then at the jurisdiction level, I would say that the experience of Malaysia, Pakistan, Sudan, you see, UAE, and quite a number of other countries that have a higher Sharia authority plus the authority at the industry level, whether it is banking or it is capital market. Okay, take for example, for us in Malaysia, we have the Sharia Advisory Council at the Bank Negara level, at the Securities Commission, we have the Sharia Advisory Council at the regulatory level, where, this regulatory body, they will monitor the market. It's not that they are there to police the market, you see, but their role is very much to harmonize the different view, the different interpretation. Because as we know that when you talk about matters related to finance, you need level of certainty. Otherwise, the market, scholar say this, that scholar say that, there is no certainty in the market. And then when things go to the court, you see, one judge will rule this way, the other judge will rule that way. That will surely bring instability in the market. So we need kind of, harmonization in the Sharia view. So through having the centralized Sharia board, so they can provide this guidance to the market. And I've seen this here in Malaysia, in UAE, for example. The role that is being played by the higher Sharia authority is great. And sometimes at the institution level, we will refer to the higher authority in order for us to get the guidance. So they will provide the guidance. And that really helps, you see, to bring closer the different interpretation, the different views that is there in the market. And also, of course, it will lead to the stability of the market. So I'm in favor of having the centralized Sharia board. And then at the institution level, you can have the different board. But then the Sharia committee at the institution level, they should be given the freedom to innovate, to come up with something new. But this new innovation should be shared with the higher authority. There will be kind of layer of check and balance, line of defense, in which the higher authority will be there to provide more insight in order to enhance what is being practiced in the market. So I can see that, you see, in UAE, in Malaysia, especially where I'm very much involved in, that is the role that is being played by the higher authority. But the higher authority does not curb the innovation at the institution level, but rather they are supporting the innovation at the institution level. And that is something that has helped to bring the industry forward.
I want, just on the back of that, to get your take on something which has obviously been in the market for a while, which has been talked about, is AOFI Sharia Standard 62. We had Brother Omar Ansari on at the end of last year, Secretary General of AOFI. I went to the AOFI conference in Bahrain a few weeks ago. I've been speaking to a lot of people about it, and I've written a few articles about it. Do you have any high-level thoughts on what you think about Sharia Standard 62?
Well, Sharia Standard 62 is related to sukuk. This is, I would say that it is still being discussed. It is still being discussed because, you see, the industry has been there for the past almost 50 years. If I can say that at the beginning, the approach of the scholars, the approach of the industry is that to find a halal solution for people, they need certain instrument, how to provide them instead of going to conventional. We go to Islamic. So in Islamic, what are the options that is available in Islamic? So we have been doing that. That is something which is good, you see. And I think IOFI, from the beginning, you can see that I was involved with IOFI, Alhamdulillah, you see. Some time ago, I was on the Sharia board of IOFI. So that is the spirit that IOFI will go based on the situation in the market. Try to cater for the situation of the market. And there are certain exceptions that is given by IOFI standard. You see, because of the need in the market. Now, as we progress, then there are enhancements that need to be done. And hence, I think the IOFI Sharia standard on sukuk, that is the intention, that is the purpose of it, to enhance the current practice, to enhance in order to reflect the true objective of Sharia in introducing the Islamic financial instrument. Okay, take for example, I think one of the most talked issue is regarding the ownership of the underlying asset of Sukuk. Now, from the Sharia, I mean, this is one of the issue that we have. It has been there for quite some time. You see, from the Sharia point of view, of course, I mean, Sharia do recognize the akad or the contract between the two parties. So if I am selling any asset to you, as long as we sign the contract, then from the Sharia point of view, it is valid. Now, this validity need to be enforced, right? You see, if I sign a document with you, I say, okay, the document is valid, but you cannot enforce the document. And in our current circumstances, enforcing the document will entail you to go through the legal framework. You see, how do you want to enforce? You need to get the court order sometime. You need to get, you see, the legal fraternity to recognize it and whatnot. So sometimes this is the issue. You see, it might be valid from the Sharia point of view, but if it cannot be enforced, then there will be no value for the documents that you sign. So that's why I was saying that we need to go to the spirit of the contract and the practicality aspect of it. I mean, that is the reason why the standard is taking long time, because I can understand that IOF have done the public hearing many times. They are collecting the feedback from the market. They are not in a hurry to get it out yet. You see, because they need to look into what are the issue. It is good that because the standard is very extensive, so it is good that the market is providing their feedback. So that, and I believe that our colleague in IOF will look into all these issue, you see, and try to address it and try to make sure that it is practicable on the ground before it final release. So this is I think the spirit is very much to look into the maqsad shara when it comes to a particular contract, when it comes to implementing a particular sharia principle. That is what we need to do, because we have grown. I would say that 50 years is not a short time. Okay, and inshallah, I mean, this industry will be there for the next decade and whatnot. So we need to try to enhance and try to do whatever that we can in order for us to bring it to another level. And nowadays we are talking about Maqasidu Sharia, implementing, you see, Maqasidu Sharia, looking into the spirit of the contract, not only in the form of the contract. I mean, all this effort, alhamdulillah, I would say, to ensure that people does not see Islamic finance as an instrument which comply only to the form of Sharia, but we want people to see that, yes, I mean, there is a value proposition, it comply with the form and also the spirit of Sharia. So it is our duty as a scholars, standard setters, that's what IOF is doing, and I believe, inshallah, it is in the right direction. But please, you see, it is very important. I can know that there are a lot of criticism, there are a lot of dissatisfaction outside there in the market, particularly with regard to this standard 62. But please bear with our colleague in IOFI. They are trying their level best to do and to come up with something which is the best in order for it to be practical on the ground, inshallah.
I mean, Dr. Akram, you said something really interesting at the beginning of this conversation when you were in Jordan and you opened an Islamic bank account. They did proper mudaraba. And to me, Dr. Akram, it's like this standard, along with Standard 59, which kind of got resolved somewhat, it goes to the heart of the issue of Islamic finance. Is this really, like the way Islamic finance is practiced today at the moment, is this really in line with what the Sharia is doing from a outcome perspective? Because to me, it just seems like a lot of the time it just seems very similar to the conventional. But when you ask people and present people this proposition, a lot of people then say, oh no, we don't want this like level of risk or like this kind of product. I mean, do you have any high level thoughts on what you think about that?
Well, okay. We have to understand that Islamic finance, we are operating in a conventional framework. Okay, I think some of my colleagues, I mean, they say that we are playing football in a rugby field. So when you play football in a rugby field, then you need to tweak then here in order to suit the regulatory framework, in order to suit the taxation regime, in order to suit the legal framework and whatnot. So you see, it is not easy. The central bank, when they provide license to Islamic banks, I mean, there are conditions that the Islamic bank have to meet. There are rules, there are regulations, there are capital requirements and whatnot. You see, in which Islamic bank have to fulfill, because otherwise, I mean, you will be going against, you see, the requirement of the regulator, and you do not want to do that, because obviously, I mean, you want Islamic finance to flourish. So that's why at the moment you go everywhere, we are working within that. So that's why we might need to tweak there and here in order for us to work within the system. And you have to work, you have no choice. You have to work within the system. That's why I always tell people, why not we try our level best to support Islamic finance, so that when the share of Islamic finance in a particular jurisdiction is more than the conventional finance, then I believe that Islamic finance is going to set the market. You see, the rule is going to be determined by the dominant player in the market. But if Islamic finance is still 10%, 15%, you see, the conventional market is still the dominant, have dominant share in the market, it will be very difficult, even for the regulator, to entertain any changes that is required. So that's why at this juncture, we have to try our level best in order for us to support Islamic finance, increase the share of Islamic finance. And I believe that, you see, after you see the share of Islamic finance has gone beyond 50%, even now in Malaysia, you see, we are looking into this issue. Alhamdulillah, now for example, in Malaysia, the Islamic banking asset is about 43-44% at the moment. You see, so we have started thinking, once it goes above 50%, what are the kind of tweaking that need to be done? What are the kind of policy change need to be done? So that is all in the thinking of the regulator as well as the market at the moment. So let us work towards increasing the share of Islamic finance in the market, so that we will be able to set the market in the future. At the moment, of course, we have to work within the system, and we have to try our level best. And the bottom line, of course, it has to be Sharia compliant. You cannot compromise Sharia compliant. But sometimes we might need to comply with the form, not with the spirit. Wherever possible, we try to comply with both. But sometimes, you see, you are constrained because of certain constraint. You might not be able to achieve the perfect level. And I would call for those people out there who are criticizing Islamic finance, if you have any solution that is viable, that can be implemented on the ground, please, by all means, you see, come together with us, and we work together, of course, in order to bring this industry up. I mean, criticizing is not difficult. Everyone can criticize, but the most challenging part is for us to come up with the model that is workable on the ground. If you can come up, then ahlan wa sahlan. I think nobody is going to reject your idea if you have a viable solution that is practical and that can be implemented on the ground, inshallah. Well, mainly it's because of the capital requirement. As you know, that the equity-based instrument will require a different level of capital that is imposed by the regulator. Okay, obviously because of the risk associated to it is higher than the debt-based instrument. So this is okay. I give you some example, for example, and the other thing is that, you know, banking institution, even though they can do profit sharing arrangement, musyarakah, mudarabah, and whatnot, but they don't have the expertise in the area. Let's say if I want to give money as a Rabul Mal to a business person, I have to understand the nature of the business, and I have to ensure that the business is viable and whatnot before agreeing to provide capital. So they don't really have expertise that can really evaluate and conduct due diligence in order to ensure that everything is in order, and this the prospect of the business is that it can really generate a good return and whatnot. I mean, so this is among the I would say that apart from the capital requirement, I mean the kind of risk. And sometimes, as you know, that the regulator do not want the depositors' money to be used without thinking about the risk that is involved. So that is, you see, among the constraint that we have when it comes to profit sharing instrument for Islamic bank. That's why, I mean, there are some like I know of certain bank like Jordan Islamic Bank, as I mentioned during the early days. I mean, they do a mudarabah, through mudarabah, but then at the end of the day, they have to stop it, you see, because every time at the point of declaring the profit, the mudarib will say there is no profit. So nothing much that the bank can do. So because the bank have the obligation towards their depositors as well, towards their shareholders. So the expectation of the depositors is that they will get some return out of the money that they put with the institution. See, I mean, so in order to balance this, and also the regulator also, it is their duty to protect the depositors' money. So these are among the challenge that in order for us to move forward in the profit sharing. I mean, having said that, I hope that Islamic bank actually, if you look into conventional and you compare it with Islamic bank, conventional, their products basically they only have one product. You see the relationship. Mainly speaking, generally speaking, the relationship between the client and also the institution is borrower-lender relationship. Whatever product that they have, you see, whether on the deposit side or on the investment side, on the financing side, I mean, it is borrower-lender relationships. But in Islamic finance, you see, we can do bay, we can do ijara, we can do musharaka, we can do so many things that we can do. It's just that we need to have the capability in order to do it. And we have seen that some of the Islamic financial institutions, they have gone into the real economy. They have invested in real property, for example, and they get good return out of that. So we need to have to be bold enough to venture into all these institutions, provided that of course we have the good capability to do that, so as not to jeopardize the amanah that the depositor have given to us.
So, would you say the answer then is to have like an Islamic system like Pakistan is trying to do, or something similar to like Iran or Sudan? Do you think that's the answer, to have a completely Sharia compliant system?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I mean that should be the way forward. Having said that, of course, we need to ensure that it is being done in a proper manner, in which I mean the regulator need to ensure that everything is in order, because you are talking about the depositor, you are talking about the expectation of the shareholder, you are talking about the business venture and whatnot. So make sure that the interest of everyone is being protected, because we are operating in a world where many people are out there to take advantage, and this we have to really address. I mean, all the from all.
As we bring the podcast to a close shortly, Dr. Akram, there's just two areas I wanted to ask you. The first is which geographies, just picking off the back of what we just were talking about, but which geographies do you think are the most interesting for the Islamic finance industry going forward?
Actually, we can see that a lot of development that is taking place in the Middle East as well in Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, we have Malaysia, Indonesia with the largest population of Muslims in the world, a very huge market, and we can see that the regulator in Indonesia is very active. You see now that they are going to more and more Islamic products, more and more Islamic institutions are being established. Okay, it is an interesting market. And Middle East market, of course, I mean, it is an I would say to a certain extent developed market, you see. And you can see that the emerging market in Central Asia, you see, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, is also talking about it. I mean, the South Russian country, Tatarstan and whatnot. I mean, they are also going into Islamic finance now, and there are a lot of potential even in Africa. See, in Africa, African country, the demand is there. I was in Abuja, Nigeria last week. So a lot of discussion is taking place. A lot of institution are requesting for Islamic banking license, either window or full-fledged. So a lot of demand is there. So we can see that the potential is there, and I strongly believe that the industry is here to grow. You see, but then we still have a long way for us to go. A lot of work still ahead of us that we need to do, inshallah.
Inshallah. Actually, just one thing came to my mind, Dr. Akram. Do you see, like, from a Sharia perspective, do you see like a big difference between fintechs or tech-led solutions and traditional incumbent banks? Do you see like a distinction there?
Well, fintech, you see, it is a technology, right? It is a technology. How you deploy the technology, yeah, I mean, Sharia does not have any issue with it. What is important is that you use the technology wisely and does not do anything that is against Sharia. There is no issue with deploying technology. And I strongly believe Islamic finance need to be in the frontier in order to deploy technology, because a lot of things that we can do in order to, enhance the value proposition of Islamic finance through technology. Take, for example, you see, if we are providing financing for SMEs, the main issue with SMEs is that we don't have enough information. Okay, if you can use blockchain technology, for example, you can use AI in order to get the information and also to process the information, and try to get information or try to gather information about customer that have the good capability to pay back. You can provide them with financing, and this can be done, you see, through technology. It might be difficult for you to do it manually because you wanted to process the information, you want to know the cash flow of the person and whatnot. It might be a very tedious job, but technology can assist you, can help you see through the different medium that we have at the moment in order to conduct KYC on your client and provide the correct solution for the client. So you can use that, you can deploy that in order for you to find the best solution, and that will really enhance the value proposition of Islamic finance. So I would, very much now people are talking about AI and whatnot. I mean, so all this should be deployed in the proper manner in order for us to benefit from the technology.
You speaking about AI, Dr. Akram, you just read my mind. You as a Sharia scholar, you've had this illustrious career, mashallah. As AI, like, do you think that it poses a threat to the way Sharia scholars work, or do you think it could be an assistance?
As it is now, I'm using it. So it make my work easier, particularly when it comes to analyzing certain issue. You see, I can use ChatGPT, for example, to obtain what are the issue and what are the scholars and what are the what can be obtained from the classical sources. For example, in the past, I have to go and dig, or at least I have to go online and try to find, see where is the right information that I need. But I mean, all that can be done nowadays through AI. So I will get the information, but it is for me, you see, to filter the information and to ensure that it is the right information that I need, it is the correct one that I need, and wherever I need to interpret certain information. But what really helped me is that, see, the information is there. You see, I don't really have to go to the library, don't have to go to the different sources. I just have to ensure that to authenticate that, yes, I mean, this source is from the correct source. That can be done easily. It's not that difficult to do that, you see, and then it will assist you to analyze the information, and you just need to verify those information that it is correct. So it really helped. You see, that's why, I mean, nowadays people are talking about robo Sharia and whatnot. You see, and some people are saying that one day you don't really need a Sharia scholar because you can find the solution through AI. But I still believe that you still need a human interference in order to validate whatever information that is provided in whichever platform that you are using. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Dr. Akram, tell us any projects you may be working on, any upcoming projects you may be working on.
Actually, now I've just completed the review of my book. I mean, this is Islamic law, an introduction, where it is the enhanced version of my previous book. Alhamdulillah, I mean, it is completed now. So now I'm looking into writing something related to Maqasidus Sharia. Because the sustainability agenda, I believe it is a very important area that need to be worked on, and we need to have a correct or a proper parameter when it comes to, you see, deploying Sharia rules, the Maqasidic perimeter in order for us to enhance the sustainability aspect of Islamic finance. So I'm working on coming up with maybe the conceptual framework of Maqasid, in which, because not many writing in English at the moment on this area, so I'm working on it now to write on it. And of course, I mean, at the same time, I'm also assisting my colleague at ISRA. I mean, we have the project related to the Tayyib framework that we are working on it, where we always believe that whenever giving a Sharia view, we should not confine ourselves to the fiqh ruling, but we need to look into the impact of whatever that we are doing. So we are also working on that. Hopefully, inshallah, in the future, we will have Sharia scholars who are not only looking at the fiqh aspect of things, but also at the impact of whatever rules that they are going to give. And alhamdulillah, I think in the context of Malaysia, the Securities Commission are very keen in this area. So they have come out with the Maqasid Sharia framework, you see, in which, I mean, for capital market particularly, and moving forward, I believe that the role of Sharia scholar will be greater. You see, not only to provide Sharia solution, but also to look into the impact. I mean, from time to time, to assess what are the impact of the ruling that they give, because we do not want only to give a halal solution, but we want to give a halal solution that is beneficial to the people. If you give a halal solution, but it is not beneficial, it might lead to harm, then they will be questionable even from the Sharia point of view. So we hope, you see, to work on that for the future, bismillah ta'ala.
Dr. Akram, how can people reach you? Are you available on your social media or anything?
Well, I'm not that, you see, well versed in social media, but I have my email, you see, drakram consult at gmail.com. You see, drakramconsult at gmail.com. So you can reach me through that, and I can always provide my contact number if you wish. I mean, but please email me, you see, before I can provide you with my contact number, inshallah.
I'll link it in the show notes. But Dr. Akram, this has been a really fantastic conversation. I've really learned a lot, and I've just learned a lot about your journey and, mashallah, your knowledge as well. And I really hope we can continue this dialogue going, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.